Okay, what do you do if you go to the marathon like we had on Sunday in London? You go there, you're aiming for a personal best, or you're aiming for a time and you don't get it. You fail at what you set out to do. How do you deal with it? Now, it's incredible to watch the London Marathon and also the Boston Marathon the weekend before, because you get to see this incredible event that restores your faith in humanity, no doubt. But there's a lot of people there, and the great thing about it is everybody on the start line is going to aim for something they don't quite know they can do. And that's the vast majority of the start line. There's 50,000 people there on Sunday. And for some of them, they're trying to run a PB. For some of them, they're just trying to survive and get round. It's the unknown. And there's something really magic about that. And especially when there's so many of you kind of in the same boat and you're trying to move forward. And what that means is some people will succeed at the goal. Some people will have a good day. You know, the weather plays a big part, but also the other factors surrounding it play a big part. Some people will fail. And if you're one of those people that you're kind of down Monday, Tuesday, you're down and you feel like putting all that work. I've been training all over the winter. I've done so many long runs in the morning. I've sacrificed so much time away from my family or my friends and from nights out. I've not been drinking. I've been eating clean, all these different things that we put all focused on one race, and then it doesn't happen. You feel like almost like, what's the point in it all? It's absolutely brilliant that you failed, because in order to fail, it means that you were trying to achieve something that was currently beyond your capability, which is fantastic. And you didn't quite know, and it might have gone right, but it hasn't gone right. And that's absolutely brilliant, that you had your hat in the ring and you were willing to risk it, because that time that you're aiming for, that goal that you have in mind, is completely your goal. And it's something that you've set yourself, and hopefully that goal is far enough away that you should fail along the way. You shouldn't just get there and succeed. It's quite easy. If it's too easy, the goal, it's not going to be interesting for anybody. And so the fact that you failed is a really positive sign. Now, to get over it, this happened to me in 2016. I went to London Marathon. I trained like mad for years, but I've trained like mad for the 3-4 months leading up to it. I'd been training in the heat. I'd been training at altitude. I'd done all the long runs. I'd done so much speed work and hill work, and I'd worked on all my weaknesses. I'd developed my strengths. I'd worked on my nutrition and getting that right, and I felt I was ready to run really, really quick. And I went through halfway in 1:08, which was the fastest half marathon I'd ever ran at that point. I'd been used to running to kind of 69, 70 minutes for a half marathon, but all of a sudden I was surrounded by quick runners. And maybe that had something to do with it. And maybe that was the kind of like, you know, with hindsight, everything is perfect, but maybe that had something to do with it. Going through halfway so quick, and then by 25K, something wrong with my hamstring, and I'm just getting slower and slower and slower, putting the same amount of effort. People are going past you, which is demoralizing. The crowds are shouting for you to hurry up and to get moving. You just don't have it. And as the time is slipping away, and as your goal is kind of crumbling in front of you, your only task is to try to get round. And sometimes the best thing is just to drop out, not make any more damage, and save it for another day. But for me, because it was home turf, and because like maybe 1 in 10 races is in the UK, I felt like my family and my friends are following me online. There's people there at the marathon. I've got to get round. And so I got round, and it took me 79 minutes to run the second half, which, you know, and I mentioned this yesterday, but to people who don't know, your family and friends, they don't know if that's good or bad. They don't care. And that's the thing that you know. Your goal, your target time for the marathon, it's just in your mind. It's just something that you're aiming towards. And it's a journey towards that time. It's not just going to happen and then that's it. And so from that, it was terrible, and everybody's congratulating you. Oh, well done, you came in the top 100 in the London Marathon, and you're going through all the kind of hell that comes with not achieving your target. All that time you've put in, it doesn't work. What then happened is you kind of get to a point where, okay, stop feeling sorry for yourself. Pick yourself up and let's go again. Okay, so what went wrong? You lay it all out and you look at your breakfast, you look at the travel before, you look at the hotel, your accommodation, the sleeps in the night before, the accumulated sleep over the last few weeks, the training program itself. What did you do right? What did you do wrong? When did you feel sore? When do you think you pushed it a little bit too far? When should you have pushed it a little bit more? Everything should come under scrutiny, and that's fantastic, because as we move forward towards something, and as we move kind of to improve improve and to progress and get better at something, we should be constantly looking at in the rearview mirror, constantly analyzing our performance, how we can move forward as effectively and as efficiently as possible, so that progress curve is as steep as possible. But we're constantly checking ourselves to make sure this is possible, and then we're on to the next. And that's really important. It's a crucial factor in good distance running and long-term progress and development. So I looked at everything. I was like, okay, what could I have done differently? Maybe I did it a little bit too much. Maybe I dialed it back in. I didn't do as much cycling the year after in 2017. So I reduced the cycling, did a lot more running, and then I was able to do a little bit more volume, but it wasn't about volume. It was about the quality of the long run and the quality of the intervals. That speed work, then the hill work, which has always served me well, adding more of that. And what it eventually led to was 2017, I went out more conservatively. So a group went off, and I remember leaving them and thinking, I know they're going through. I was aiming for 220, and a group went through, and I knew that group was aiming for 110 through halfway, so I knew that was the group to be in, but it just felt a bit too fast, so I stayed a bit conservative. And I went through halfway in 112, and I thought, I've got it all to do now in the second half, but it was windy, and stepping outside of my group and trying to get to the next group, and you've all felt that if you've run in a marathon, you get a lot of shelter, and you kind of save a lot of energy for being in that group. So stepping out and going, but eventually at halfway I had to do something about it, because I knew that I needed to run 108 in the second half and run as fast as I had in that 2016 first half of the marathon in order to reach a sub 220. And so I'm kind of not just running as fast as I can. I've got the bit between my teeth because I've got last year to make up for, but at the same time, I'm also aware that at any moment, your hamstring can go, anything can go wrong, and therefore it can take you an extra 5-10 minutes to get to the finish line. So I'm still going with caution, but I'm trying to stay in control as possible, but move forward as fast as possible. And I eventually ended up doing a 1:08 something, so coming back in 2:21 something. And I was really happy with that, not because I got an England vest and I got to run in Canada and things like that, and that was all great, but because I controlled it well and because I'd learnt my lessons from the previous year. So why is that important to you? I think you can be really down at the moment, and it can get to you because it's such a personal achievement. It's such a personal goal, and it's all kind of in you, and maybe your partner knows about it. Maybe your mum and dad know about it if you're a bit younger, but it's all on you, and it's something that you've made up in your mind that you want to achieve, and it means a lot to you. It's become part of your identity. But what you should know is that if you look under the bonnet, so to speak, and if you think, right, okay, what did I do right and what did I do wrong? It's great to be critical of yourself, but don't be too critical, because you're actually on the right path. You know you're on the right path because you're getting up and doing what you love every morning, and you're moving towards a goal. And it shouldn't be easy, as I've said before. You should work at this and have to maybe have 2 or 3 attempts in order to get it right, and then it will mean so much more. But what you can learn from my little 2016 to 2017 was that just by kind of holding back a little bit, not getting overexcited, because London's an amazing place to run a marathon, but just holding back a little bit, and then when the right time comes, you've got to step out, and then you've got to go for it, and know that it's that halfway mark that means a lot. 25K, 30K means a lot, and you can take more and more and more risk as you get in towards the finish line. And if you've still got energy and energy to give, with 35K gone and 7K to go, you're in a great place to make up a lot of minutes. And a lot of people, if you look at the stats from Sunday and Boston as well, but if you look at the stats, the negative split, the people who run slower in the first half than the second half is really, really small. And that feeling of kind of being able to control the marathon and run really well in the second half and feel like you can really put pressure on your opponents, but also on yourself in the second half. You can really kind of put as much as you possibly can into it. That's a great feeling. So yeah, if you get anything from this, like, don't beat yourself up too much. Have a couple of days where you're taking it easy, you're not going to the gym, you may be going out and walking, nothing more, but you're definitely not running, you're definitely not getting on the bike. It's just time to let the body soak in, because whether it's worked, whether you've succeeded or failed at the weekend, you've got to let your body kind of come to. And it's not just physical, it's mental, because you've worked towards something. It's a little bit kind of a come down after a big party. And so you've got to give yourself time and then think about, okay, what could you have done better? Where did you do well in the training? Where did you do well in the race? Where could you have done better? Where did it go wrong for you? And if you need any help on that, let me know, because it's often we're beating ourselves up. And if we look under the bonnet, and especially if you get another pair of eyes to look under, it can be quite obvious what's gone wrong. And it might be something so simple like nutrition. Most people get nutrition wrong. So yeah, good luck, and don't beat yourself up too much, and there's always another marathon.